So, hello everybody. Welcome to Customer Experience R&R with myself, Richard Knight, and Ryan Huxtable. Thank you very much for logging in and listening to our warblings from the West Country once again. Hopefully, you're finding these useful. And in this week's episode, we're going to be looking at and considering customer experience beyond the pandemic. What's going to be happening when we're getting through this? Lots of people talking about we're going to get through the other side. But what's that going to look like from a customer experience point of view? Things are never going to be the same again. According to some people, it's okay, we're going to get back to normal. According to other people, I don't know what's going on. I speak to so many people a lot of the time, and I'm a little bit unsure. So I thought, it'd be great for us to have a chat about it today, Ryan, and share our thoughts with the wider population out there. Where's your thinking at the moment in terms of this beyond the pandemic? Where are we going to get to?
Yeah, thanks, Rich. And yeah, I can't believe we're recording another one of these. I can't believe people are still listening to our warblings. But yeah, thank you for sticking with us. And we hope to share, as Rich said today, some of our thinking around how we all get back to some sense of normality. But I have to say, for those of you on YouTube that are watching this, you'll see the amazing, Richard's amazing backdrop. He looks as if he's in Cathedral Yard of Salisbury Cathedral. What do you think of my new background, Rich? My very corporate background.
It's very good. I looks very familiar. Can't think I've seen it before. Yeah, very nice.
Sorry if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, but go to the YouTube channel and see how dashingly handsome we both look. Okay, so so what do I think? Well, I think businesses are in two camps at the moment about coming out of this, and we've never faced anything like this in our adult lives. I think if you're running a business or you're a consumer in the current environment, what do you do? How do you spend your money? What do you invest in? It's really difficult. But I'm listening to lots of commentators at the moment, and I'd say there's probably two camps of people, Rich, at the moment. There's a camp of people who probably still in a little bit of denial, in my view, thinking that things are going to go back to the way they were before all of this happened, and we'll return to that soft, comfy blanket we had before the virus shot out of Wuhan. And then there's another camp of people that I'm listening to who are really dynamic in their thinking, and they're thinking about what can we learn from these past few weeks, these weeks of lockdown, how we've had to be fleet of foot and dynamic, and changing the way we look after our customers, giving them a great experience, even though they may not be face to face. And I think those people are definitely getting ahead. They're thinking about what the new world might look like, because I don't know about you, Rich, but even when the pandemic is sort of on the wane, I think the economic impacts that we're going to face are going to be really, really difficult. And businesses that can adapt quickly and make the changes that they need to can really, really flourish in the new world. I think there's an old adage, isn't it? Starting a business in a recession is probably the best time to do it, is the old adage. So, and when you start a business, you're full of new ideas, you're fleet of foot, you're quick to change things. So I think if you can adapt the I'm running a new business model into your head, you will be much more dynamic in your thinking. I don't know if that resonates with you, Rich.
Yeah, absolutely. Only way is up. If you're down the recession, it's only going to get better. And it's a really interesting point you make about those two camps. And we're hearing a lot more from the data, which is suggesting that leaders are now ready to start thinking about what is beyond for them, and also what their customers' expectations are. I think it's about 75% of leaders are actually in that position now, where they're going, okay, we need to be replanning for outside of this current situation. And one of our previous episodes, we spoke about the pivoting piece and doing something slightly different, and that's that almost reaction to something that's been happening, the reactionary phase. Whereas actually from business, we also know that planning is critical, and that goes the same for your customers and their expectations, their needs, their wants going forward. We know it's changed, we've reacted to it, but actually those organizations that will thrive the other side of this situation are the ones who sit down, take some time working on the business rather than in the business. We've all heard it before, and making the most of the time to say, right, okay, where are we now? Where do we want to be? and taking some data, taking some insight. What are our customers thinking? And it's a great opportunity to gather insight, to ask the people who are most important to you in your business, customers, both internal customers, so the employees, and the external customers, those with the money, them that's going to buy your products, as they say down in the West Country. So
Yeah,
you've got to make the most of it.
He's
No,
going to buy
no, well, you
cider.
can buy the cider. Yeah, that's good.
He's going to buy the cider. Yeah, it's
So,
a really
yeah.
great point. It's a really great point. And the way I kind of look at it, and the way I kind of talk to my clients about this is, there's, you know, we talked, I think it was in episode 2, didn't we, about different client journeys and how businesses that were fleet of foot had changed the way their clients access their products and services, and the journey was different. And that'll be the same now as we come out of the pandemic. And whenever I'm client journey mapping with a client, I always talk about 3 things, Rich, and you probably do the same. And there's 3 parts to the way in which customer experience is built up in your business. And the 3 things that affect that customer experience are these. You've got the voice of the process. So if your operational process has been tested and you've got that insight, as you point out, Rich, to make sure that customers can access your products and services in a simple way throughout that journey, and that process is slick and it's easy to use, and your customers get it. Sometimes we call it the Amazon process, don't we? Because they're pretty slick at getting you products. Great. If that voice of the process has been reviewed in the new world, in terms of when you're coming out of the pandemic, and making sure that that's tied up end to end, then great. Your process is the core of your customer experience, and making sure that that's tightened up and easy to use. The second bit within that, as you pointed out, Rich, is the voice of the employee. So actually, do your team and your stakeholders understand what the new processes and operations procedures might be in the new world? Have you trained them? Are they aware of it? Do they understand the impact that not getting that right will have on your customers going forward? Because you know what, you've worked really hard all the way through this really difficult time in keeping hold of your clients and customers. The last thing you want to do when we're coming out of this is to mess up the engagement with your employees and mess up the process, because that will give them a really awful experience and they won't stay with you. They'll go somewhere else. And then the third thing in a client journey that I think is always really important, and one of the things I always talk to my clients about, is the voice of the customer. Now, most people just think it's about that, the voice of the customer. What is the customer thinking and feeling? But it's not. You have to have your process right. You have to have your employees engaged. And if those 2 things are right at the bottom end of the pyramid, so to speak, your operations right, your people are engaged, the voice of the customer, it's important. It comes back to your insight point around making sure that during that client journey, the customer feels great about interacting with your brand. And the only way you're going to know that is to ask them, is to get that insight, is to find out how they're feeling. If you don't, you'll assume that everything's all right. And you know what happens if you assume?
Indeed, I do, and don't use that sort of language on this fine airwaves.
Sorry.
Get told off. Absolutely. You know, 3 clear areas to focus on, and I think those, often the businesses are very, very good at asking customers over and over again, what do you think? What do you think? Let's get the feedback. But it's also being able to take that data and actually draw the insight out. So data is fantastic stuff, and when you gather loads of it, it can make a big difference if you do something with it. Oftentimes it sits there in a big spreadsheet and everybody says, oh yeah, we're doing okay, that's fine, we don't need to change anything. But coming out beyond this pandemic, we really do need to take that insight and draw the data from it. So what is it actually telling you about the way you're operating? Is it okay for you to continue that same process that you've spoken with there? Are the interactions that your teams, your staff are having with customers impacting the quality of their experience, and do you need to do something about it? And then also you can retest whether that's made a difference by asking the customers again, but we're asking them in the right amount of time and not overloading them. That's really interesting. Actually, just one point just need to pick up with. You mentioned journey mapping there, Ryan. some of the listeners and viewers may not be overly sort of au fait with that whole journey mapping piece. Just wonder if you could give us a little bit more insight into how that process works.
Sure.
People might want to.
Yeah, I lapsed into the old CX speak there, didn't I? Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah. So a journey map is really simple. It's really, really simple stuff. It's at any point during an interaction that you have with your customers are on a journey with you. So whether that's they're accessing your website, they are ringing your premises, they are interacting with your team, they are buying a product, they are paying for a product, they're leaving a review. At any point during that time that they're interacting with your brand or with your products and services, they're on a journey with you. So making sure that we map that to ensure that at the purchase stage, at the payment stage, at the review stage, the level of experience is as good at any point during any point in that interaction or in that journey. Is the 10 out of 10 is the bit we're looking for, because you know what, you could have a great experience, couldn't you, on the website and think, wow, this website's amazing, it's really easy to use, it's really easy to order product on, you order your product, you pay for it, it's all dead simple, and then it doesn't arrive on time. So all the great work you've done at the front end of that journey is amazing, and the customer thinks, wow, this is pretty cool, but all of that work is undone because the product either arrives damaged or it's late, or the promise you've made to that particular customer isn't followed through. So mapping that journey throughout all of those different touch points that a consumer goes on with your business is really, really important to check that it all works properly.
Fantastic. Thank you for the clarity, Ryan. Thanks. First time for everything. We've got a lot to think about as we go through the crisis we find ourselves in currently, and our customers are having different thoughts, their expectations are changing, as we've mentioned several times. So just to sort of bring this particular episode to a conclusion, I think one of the key things to think about is, how do businesses go about doing that thinking then? There's 3 steps to that we'd like to tell you about before we finish today, and that is reflect, review, replan. Nice and simple. What is going on at the moment within your customer experience? What are your customers going through? So the journey mapping piece plays part of this. Reflecting how you are as a leader. How effective are you? How effective are your teams? And also, how effective is that journey? So reflection. What's happened? Let's pause and think. Then it's taking, as I mentioned previously, taking that information, actually reviewing it. Rather than just saying, well, this is what it is, it's actually pausing there and going, okay, so the team weren't quite as effective as interacting on the telephone as it was before. What do we need to change then that's going to make the difference? What do we need to review? What else do we need to look at to make sure we really understand that? And then off the back of that data, we can actually replan. So how are we going to do this? And we can then go back to Ryan's 3 points around the voice of the process, voice of the employee, and voice of the customer. So we can replan based on those 3 areas. So nice and simple. There's 3s everywhere in this. Amazing. In fact, there's 2 3s we've got here today. Voice of the customer, voice of the employee, voice of the process. And we've got reflect, review, replan. Put those together, you get 6. Insight 6. Interesting. So we've got those 6 things there to consider. Ryan.
Loving your work.
Thank you.
It's important. You know, people remember things in 3s, don't they? So in the first episode, we talked about the 3 C's: the communicate, the communicate, the communicate. In the second episode, you know, we talked about the 3 G's, didn't we? Get in, get it, get out. We're trying to make this stuff simple to remember, because do you know what? I'm a simple West Country boy.
That's it. That's what we operate on here.
It simple. I like it simple, Rich. That's all I'm saying.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much. And now we've looked at those 3 things, it's time to pop off and have 3 cans of cider and 3 pasties, and then we'll all be happy. But I think it's been brilliant to chat about that beyond the pandemic. A lot of people ready to move on, and hopefully we're giving you a little bit of insight into our warblings from the West Country about beyond the pandemic. And thank you very much for joining us once again. Go to the website, www.insight6.com. More information on there. There's a link on the commentary below as well if you are viewing on YouTube or LinkedIn, whatever it is. And so please do pop along. We will have the information we provided there about the 3 pieces of information on a PDF for you to download. So please do make the most of that. And if you've got any other questions, you can contact us via our LinkedIn profiles or via the website. Thank you very much from me, Richard Knight from Salisbury.
Thank you, Richard. Splendidly chaired today. Loving that. I just said it's a cracking cathedral behind you.
Thank you.
And thank you from me, Ryan Huxtable, Customer Insight Director in Devon and Cornwall. So see you soon. Thanks.
Thanks very much.